I exude more cynical energy.
I'm with you, Bill. Welcome back to Bisexual Killjoy, the place where we know bisexuality isn't a phase, it's a phenomenon. I'm Bailey, and this is...
Jace.
All right, so by now, we understand that bi-plus people are everywhere. But are there also bi-plus cities? Today, we are interviewing the BiConic team that has hosted the longest-running bi-plus television show, BiCities. And here with us today are the co-hosts, speech and language pathologist Anita Kozan and counseling psychologist Marge Charmoli, as well as author, publisher, and original producer Bill Burleson. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you. And we love that you're doing this, by the way. This is so exciting, that we don't often hear what everybody else is doing. We're in flyover country here in Minneapolis, St. Paul are the BiCities. Mm-hmm. So we love that we're included in this.
Every day I learn about a new city that has been doing bi-plus stuff for a long time. I'm like, how did I not know about this? I recently learned about the flourishing community in Detroit. I'm like, okay, all right, Detroit, I'll visit and we'll do something bi-plus together.
Yeah, there are little pockets of bi stuff that pop up. Bill knows about this in his book and so on. But, Indianapolis was one at one time and, wherever the energy is.
Yeah.
Here we are.
BiCities is the world's longest running show dedicated to bisexuality. Since 2002, hosts Dr. Marge Charmoli and Dr. Anita Kozan have led weekly conversations with leading experts, activists, and cultural figures in the bi-plus community. Each episode shares stories, research, and advocacy that deepen understanding and visibility. Recognized as a leader in the Twin Cities by the Bisexual Organizing Project, honored with Producer of the Year by St. Paul Neighborhood Network, and awarded Changemaker of the Year by the St. Paul LGBTQIA Community Organization, BiCities has welcomed guests from local pioneers to international voices, including Fritz, Klein, and Robyn Ochs. Thank you so much, y'all, for being here with us today.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are delighted.
Thank you.
This is fun. We don't get to see Bill very often, do we, Bill?
Yeah. I don't know why not.
And you're moving, you're alive. This is good.
So where in the world are you all calling us in from?
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, just 5 blocks from the Mississippi River.
Oh, wow.
Marge is on the other side of the river.
The other city. Yeah, it's Minneapolis and the other city.
Do you ever go outside and just wave at each other from across the river?
Exactly.
We almost could at one time, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, when we used to introduce BiCities, because Anita named it after the Twin Cities, right? So we say, hi, I'm Marge Charmoli, and I'm from St. Paul. And Anita was saying, hi, and I'm Anita Kozan, and I'm from Minneapolis. Welcome to BiCities. Program by, for, and about the bi-plus community and our friends and allies. So, yeah, we got the Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the BiCities in there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, for this season, we've talked a lot about bi-plus history, and it's something that many of our listeners don't know a ton about. And I think this kind of contributes to the reason why bi-plus people feel excluded or distanced from their identity, because it's we don't have a history, but we do. Bi-plus people have always been a part of the LGBTQ plus movement. We've always been doing our own thing, and we are working together to focus on the labor of crafting, keeping, and making bi-plus history. So before we even jump into the show, we would love to start with you and your personal journeys into this work, because it takes a lot to find your way into activism and then to stay in it for 20 years, right? So how did each of you find your way into bi-plus activism and organizing before the show even came about? Anita, would you mind kicking us off?
I didn't even have a name for what I was for a long time. I was trying to figure out. I knew I belonged in the community. In terms of the activism, it was in the 70s when I had a dream about, I thought I was supposed to be helping people understand the cosmos. And I thought, that's really a big thing to try to take on. And as years went by, I realized, no, it's me helping people understand people, the people who are around us, including people in the LGBTQIA plus family, and particularly that bisexual is a real thing. It's not just the binary gay and straight. As soon as I realized who I was, I started naming myself. The real coming out was with the organization where I was working at the time, a big medical group called Alina. And we had a meeting, all the members, big horseshoe, everybody sitting in, a guest speaker. And we get halfway through all the people and everyone's saying, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm gay or lesbian. And I said, I'm Anita Kozan. I'm the only person, as far as I know, here who is bisexual. And the speaker said, and I want to talk to you about that because your organization needs to reflect everybody, even if you don't think they're here. It needs to be the Alina gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender organization. They all need to be here. And that, I guess, that was really the beginning, being out, claiming my own name. That was 1994.
That's awesome. And Marge, same question to you. How did you find your way into organizing?
Let me just say with something I once learned from a former city administrator in St. Paul, Minnesota, named Tom Kelly, who once said, "Hell hath no fury, like self-interest masquerading as a pious cause." So that's been an inspiration for me. In order to sort of understand my coming out story, if you will, and how I got to activism, it's important for me to let our audience know where St. Paul was when I came out in 1980, when I fell in love with a woman. 2 years prior to that, St. Paul, Minnesota had an ordinance that protected people on the basis of, I think they called it affectional preference back then. And in 1978, you might remember Harvey Milk was assassinated, and Anita Bryant was sweeping the nation, trying to get rid of any ordinances that protected people on the basis of sexual orientation. So now they targeted St. Paul because we had a provision in our charter that allowed people to put stuff on the ballot if they didn't like it. They could either initiate it or take it off.
Wow.
Minneapolis had a similar ordinance, same time in the mid-70s it came on. They didn't have that provision in their charter. So they came after St. Paul, all these national people, Anita Bryant, everybody sweeping into St. Paul. They put it on the ballot. Guess what? You put a minority issue on the ballot, who's going to win? They just creamed us. They got rid of our ordinance, and it was such a dark night of the soul. It was awful. So in the shadow of that, I'm coming out, and I am scared out of my wits. You know, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my job. There's no protection. And anytime something like that happens, we've all been through this in some way, shape, or form. One thing happens and 100,000 people live in fear. And I'm a psychologist. I see that in my practice. You know, people go after transgender people. Everybody's afraid. So that was the context in which I came out. At the same time, Mayor George Latimer appointed me to the Human Rights Commission in St. Paul. Now, I'm kind of in the closet, right? I mean, people who knew me well knew that I was a female partner, but I wasn't, loud and proud and out there. Now, you have to realize the Human Rights Commission in St. Paul wouldn't even talk about sexual orientation as a protected class because it had been so soundly defeated. Look what happened in St. Paul in 1978. And you need to realize that this had ripple effects in the whole state of Minnesota because we had a beloved senator named Alan Spear. Every year he would try to introduce state legislation to protect people on the basis of sexual orientation. And the whole legislature would go, look what happened in St. Paul.
Wow.
Because they had a provision too to put stuff on the ballot. So it was stalling everything. It was gumming up the works. Over the course of my being on the commission, we gradually started to talk about that. And finally, my swan song when I left the commission was I helped to co-author and introduce an ordinance that protected people on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. We sneaked that into the definition. The general public thought it was queer. They didn't know what it was. And I was a psychologist, so I knew, the definitions of blah, blah, blah. So we put that in the ordinance. Of course, it goes on the ballot, right? I don't know if there's a God in heaven or something. We prevailed. We won.
Wow.
St. Paul is the strongest human rights ordinance in the nation because it now includes gender identity. 2 years after, the state of Minnesota said, look what happened in St. Paul. They introduced statewide legislation. Minnesota becomes the first state in the nation to protect people on the basis of gender identity. So we have a pretty thriving transgender community here because people came here, and we still are a refuge community for that. That was the context in which I came out. When I was part of the Human Rights Ordinance, the gay rag called Equal Times, I came to their attention and they said, would you be in part of our coming out issue in October as an ally?
Oh, thanks.
And I thought, well, yeah, I guess I am an ally to all the other, alphabet soup letters. And then I thought, I have to be honest. So I called them and I said, I'd be happy to be in your coming out issue. I need to let you know I'm bi. This is one of my bi killjoy moments. We have to say, but I'm bi.
Yeah.
We keep saying it, right? So they did a feature article. I was on the cover of that year, 1989, coming out as a bi. Then I got introduced to Scott Bartell and all the other bi. I didn't know anybody. Nobody in St. Paul, nobody I knew was bi, openly bi. So that became my journey into that. And then somehow Bill plucked me out of the mothballs or something. He said, "You want to be on BiCities?"
Not the mothballs.
Where it was, in the shadows, somewhere.
Skulking as many bi plus people allegedly do. Once you come out as bi, then suddenly just everyone else like, I'm also bi. I'm also bi.
Isn't it? Yeah, we've all had that, haven't we?
The woodwork.
Yeah. So anyway.
Wow, Marge, I mean, that's incredible. And Bill, we also want to hear your story, but I think as you're telling it, it goes seamlessly into the start of BiCities. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this work, Bill.
I'll give you the nickel tour of how I ended up getting involved in all this. I like to say I came out as bi to myself in 1977 on the 17 bus at 24th and Hennepin in Minneapolis. Said, aha, I am bi. You know, when you have one of those epiphany moments, I say, yeah, that feels exactly right. Because I had bi friends and I knew some people were bi, and there were national figures at that time. It was Elton John, who was identified then as bi, and David Bowie and a bunch of other people. So I had some words for it. However, the homophobia in 1977 was pretty thick. I had a girlfriend who I came out to, and she was bi too. So that was all great, but it took a long time till I really can say, well, a long time. It took about a decade till I came out publicly as bi. And I never identified as anything other than that after that, and never identified as anything other than that to myself. The big surprise for me was when I started coming out, and I had gay and lesbian friends, and I'd come out to them, is that I expected some support and welcoming into the LGBT community. You know, this is before there was such a thing as that acronym. I did not get that at all. It did not happen.
Oh, really?
And I was so hurt and disappointed.
Yeah.
And I lost so many friends that way. It made no sense at all to me. So I was kind of wandering in the woods coming around like 1990, trying to figure out, well, what the hell? I'm losing all my friends. I mean, this is really kind of hard to find a community. And lo and behold, here comes the Because Conference.
Yeah.
Which is the regional conference that takes place in the Twin Cities here. Started up in about
1992.
92. Okay, 92. By 93, I went to it. And I think I met Marge there, actually, the first time. She may not remember it, but I met a lot of people there. She mentioned Scott Bartell, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
And a whole bunch of other wonderful people, and met a lot of people, and I've never looked back. All these great friends I've made since then, and all these connections, and became very involved in all of that, including helping with the conference in the future and doing a number of other things like helping begin the Bisexual Organizing Project vaguely around 2000, putting on the international conference when that was here in 2003, more or less. And as part of all of that is that we decided it was just an explosion of vocal bi activism happening in the Twin Cities. Always looking for like what new things we can do. We can have support groups. We can have discussion groups. We can have social events in the evening. We can have an annual picnic. We did all those things. We even had a little bricks and mortar at one point of a little office for about a year and a half. So we did all those things. And one of the things that I know what we can do, we can have a cable access TV show. Well, this is before podcasts. We're talking like around, what year did we start, Marge?
2002.
2002. So this is before podcasts, this is before YouTube, this is before any of that stuff, right? One of the few vehicles of democracy, of getting your voice out there, was cable access. God bless cable access. What I can't believe is that it still exists. That's really something that it still exists, because who's got cable? So we created a cable access show, and what fun is that? And anybody can do it. All you got to do is be a member of your cable access club, which is no big deal, and get some training on it, and voila, we had a show. So the friend I mentioned, we were brainstorming up who would make the perfect host. And I got to tell you, we really didn't have to consider anybody else. We just went right to Marge and Anita. They're smart, savvy people who can speak well and been long-time activists in the community by that point in time. And it's like, of course. So we've never looked back. We went off and started the show.
Wow. I want to give a huge shout out to the Bisexual Organizing Project and to the Because Conference. Jason and I were really allowed to grow as activists and as, I say public figures, but just we were allowed to like, oh, we have authority, we have knowledge, and we're really supported at the Because Conference. Was it last
year?
It was so fantastic to be around other bi plus people who want to be in community and talk about things. And I'm drinking out of the cup that I won.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just covered in these awesome bi stickers. I also want to note for the listeners that I have seen Anita drink out of at least 2 glasses and Marge out of 1, maybe 2. And you've got your bi mugs. Yes, your BiCities mugs.
I got no swag. Where's my swag?
Yeah, Bill, where's your swag? Where's you got to represent?
I got no swag. Zero swag.
You are swag. You are swag.
Okay, so Bill approaches. Anita, what was that conversation like for someone to be like, hey, I've got this thing going on. You want to be a part of it?
I called Marge and she was like on it right away. So let's do this thing. This is great. And then she called Anita and we were just off. We did not look back. There was not a lot of negotiation or discussion, really. I think it was just at a time when things were really hot and things were really taking off in so many ways. This just really built on the community that we had built up at that point in time. So it was nothing but fun getting it launched. We had a great time, met so many cool people, putting together a really good team of people. It takes a lot of people to do this kind of thing. And we met a bunch of really fun people that came on board, and some helped for maybe not that long, but others helped for years and years and years. And I cherish every one of those relationships and all the great people I met.
Yeah.
We built a community around the TV show.
As we progressed, we had people of all ages and really different folk from age 12 up until in their 70s. So we had this intergenerational, intersectional group. But I really need to hear from Anita because you named us.
Yes.
Maybe it's because we live so close to the Mississippi, but, driving between the two cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, everyone colloquially calls them the Twin Cities. And I said BiCities. I want to give credit to the Bisexual Organizing Project leaders. I was on the board or whatever it was called at that time. And it was Kathy Shane who asked me at the board meeting if that was something that I would be interested in. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. So then I'm talking to Marge and Marge says, oh, Bill asked me to do this. And I said, well, Kathy asked me and I was thinking it'd be really cool if we did it together.
See, there's sibling rivalry. Daddy likes you better. So we both had to do it.
I remember a lot of that, actually, that Kathy had any relationship to the show because she was never involved in it or anything. But
yeah, and she was our first guest.
Yes.
All the people, Kathy Shane.
She was a big activist for a long time, did a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. One of the questions about us getting started, that was when I had not been diagnosed with ADHD at the time. I didn't know I knew what it meant, but I hadn't figured it out. And the doctors hadn't said, yes, you have it. But coming into that first show, Marge is so organized. Who's going to introduce themselves first? She had practiced in front of the mirror. I am like, oh, well, I don't know. What do you think? And Marge, thank heavens, still have Marge as the organizer, as the leader, to the point that I have said, Marge is the producer. I'm the co-producer. Yes, we are co-hosts, but Marge is the one who has carried the greater weight between the two of us. And of course, Bill was there for 5 years, but then, he's always finding new projects. So then we had to find another director, but it was wild. Marge knew what we were doing, and thank God she did. I needed someone to lead me, and it worked out great.
So I'm anal retentive a little bit. What that's all about.
Well, from the guy who's running the thing, I never had to worry about guests. I never had to worry about what was going to happen on the show. That was completely up to Marge and Anita. It was such a gift. I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff, about who should we get or who shouldn't we get. You guys took care of everything. All I had to worry about was the technical side of things, in the booth and the camera operators, lighting and all that stuff. So I got to just focus on that and sure made my life easy.
Well, let me tell you, I have to give a shout out to you, Bill, because you are visionary. You know what the next thing is. You started BiCities. You are part of the Bisexual Organizing Project. That's still alive today. BiCities is, still here. But you got it going. And in the beginning, the technical stuff was huge. You were in that control booth all by yourself. You dance and shout. Anita and I could see you. We were sitting on the set and we could see you. You're singing, dancing, but you were doing it all. You did all the audio, the visual. And by the time in our first days, a guest would walk off, you would give them a copy of the show. So it was all good to go. It was all in the can. You did titles, wow. You did this. When Bill moved on to other endeavors, it took 4 or 5 people to do that.
My favorite thing was that all the camera people had headsets on. I'd be in the booth and you guys couldn't hear me in the booth. It was all soundproof room in the back with the window. You can see me, but I'm sitting in there. Maybe there's another person or 2 people in there too. And you guys would be having this very serious discussion up there. And I would be telling jokes to the camera people who had to somehow not laugh or smile or do anything to give away that was somehow teasing them or telling jokes to them. It was my favorite activity.
I need to tell a story about me and my stories. You asked about moments in BiCities, and you never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth or their rear end, So Anita and I are introducing Reverend Pastor Anita Hill, not the one that, but she was the first openly lesbian pastor to get ordained in a St. Paul church. We always wanted to respect our guests. So here comes Anita Hill. We're interviewing her on set. One of our camera people farts really loud.
Oh my God.
And there we are. We're either horrified or we're going to laugh. The show must go on. We had to keep going. And then it turns out that we have all kinds of different people. Well, the people that were running camera were atheists. And I'm thinking, is this an editorial comment about our guest who's a reverend minister? And the atheists are farting really loud. And I'm thinking, God help us. So,
I didn't know that one. That's
you can't make that stuff. See, you couldn't hear it because you were.
Oh, wow.
We heard it, and we had to keep going, and not laugh.
And just gracefully ignored that it happened at all. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't stink, so that was good. It didn't knock us over.
Anita's listening to this episode, horrified. She's like, "Oh no, I thought everyone forgot."
Yeah.
They didn't forget, Anita. Listening to the three of you have this fabulous love fest around the project. When we were reading about BiCities, we were thinking about us and also Richie, who is our sound engineer, and how this project wouldn't happen without him. Or at least not to the level that it sounds now, which is to say, good. But the success of a long-term project like this has everything to do with community. So even when folks like Bill leave, but there were 5 people who came to step in, I think that is a testament to the power of a project in itself. As we kind of think about the beginning of this project, how collaborative were these conversations in putting together episodes and the style and basically the technical side of things?
When it comes to the technical side, it wasn't collaborative at all. I was a complete dictator.
Okay. Yeah.
Benevolent.
Richie often says he is like, I am your God and I'm going to make you so good.
I got the booth. I'm in the booth. I have the fader.
Yeah, that's fair.
It just had to be that way because we tried some earlier stuff when we first started. You guys remember some of the volunteers we had came in, and I tried to get other people to be the director instead of me being the director. That ended up being an endless string of disasters that went on, so it just didn't work. I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
I just did the directing thing, so I hate to be so assertive, but it was just something that I could do for at least consistency, so it all looks the same.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's good or not, I'll leave that to others, but I had a style and I did it that way. Now, the camera people all had skills of their own, and they brought it to the plate and said, oh, that's a great shot. So I would be able to do that. But yeah, when it came to the production, I don't know what happened after 5 years, but when it came time for doing the booth, I was a dictator.
Yeah.
Benevolent.
It's necessary.
That speaks so much to the amount of trust, how important trust can be in a project like this. I was reflecting on the whole mechanics behind the show for Bisexual Killjoy, and I told Richie, there is something really odd but really satisfying about the fact that I don't get final approval. Richie just edits, it's released, and I will listen to it with everybody else to see what was the final product. There is also such a profound amount of trust. That's what allows the project to keep going, keep consistent, and to also see it grow as a team effort.
Yeah. We shot it as if it was live.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been live. I mean, we just shot the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't a lot of time for discussion about it. Right? We can't have a committee meeting in the middle of shoot.
Oh my God.
There's not enough people for a committee, first of all, so there's that. And people are wearing headsets and they can't speak because they're in a sound studio. If they speak, they end up on microphone, and so they can't talk. So it's just up to me to pick which camera shots they're working and maybe suggest somebody move around once in a while in the half hour so to create some other angles and occasionally make it a little more lively. And so we just kind of had to do it.
And Anita and Marge, for your side of things and curating a list of guests and talking points, what was that collaboration like?
Well, I think we worked really well together. What would usually happen is individually, we would think of some people. Tom Lisford, who was our floor manager and lighting guy, Marge always called him the ambassador for BiCities. He'd meet somebody or reach out to somebody and ask them or talk to them about BiCities. And so he was a steady stream of possibilities. But Marge and I had to make choices. We usually talk to each other. We always talk to each other about, what do you think about this person? And We would come to an agreement, then invite them and talk to them ahead of time. I mean, early shows, I can remember meeting with a person beforehand just to get to know them better before we were going to interview them. We would, for sure, both of us together, talk to the person before we did the actual interview. They would be comfortable and we would know a little bit more about them. But it was definitely some work to find the guests and to prepare them for the show.
Especially given that those were recorded in person and not in this like digital age where you can record people via Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the logistical nightmare of that.
Well, you know, one of the really fun parts, I think for both of us, Anita, I mean, you speak for yourself eloquently, but we would go to all these conferences and we would be on the hunt for people. So we got to meet interesting people because, you know, we had an opening. Would you come on BiCities? What? What's we got to meet all kinds of interesting people, leaders in the community, artists, musicians, politicians, and they would come. And then what started to happen is people wanted to be on the show. And so they'd call us.
Amazing.
So we let them, most of the time we let them on. I don't think we ever turned anyone away.
We're talking about the Because conference. We mentioned that. We actually filmed BiCities once live at the Because conference. So we set up a studio. We got a room. We set up chairs to have a live studio audience for the first time. This is awesome. We had Fritz Klein on.
Yep.
Rest in peace. What a wonderful man he was. How do you film that? I don't have the 3 cameras, so I have to get 3 cameras, and I have to be able to assemble a show from 3 different cameras and then put it all together into a coherent narrative. Completely different than shooting it live. So we did it. We had the camera operators and we all had small camcorders and it took forever and rendered the whole thing and put it all together. But we had a live audience. I wanted to hear from the live audience. I wanted them to applaud. I wanted them to react. I wanted to hear them in the background, right? Because this is our big chance to have a live audience. You can't have them be quiet. At one point, I just used a camcorder and shot the audience applauding. And then when I'm assembling the show, it's like, that's the only shot of the audience. That can't be. Well, 4 times during the half-hour episodes, I'd go to the same shot of the audience applauding. It's the same shot.
Got to get scrappy.
So it's always one of my happier moments whenever I saw that episode again to laugh at the same shot of the audience 4 times.
So we're talking about technical stuff, right? We could tag team a lot. That was the wonderful thing about being co-host. And we're on set, we're filming, and we kind of filmed in a half circle. So I was on the end, Anita was sitting to my left, the 2 guests were to her left. All of a sudden, I get into this coughing jag. It's really bad. It's not going to stop. I'm mortified. What am I going to do? I can't sit here and cough, cough, cough. So I'm looking at the cameras and I saw that the red light wasn't on me. I ripped off my microphone. I flew out of my chair. I had to go way out in the hall to cough. And so, so then I had to find my way back in. Once I exit that way, Anita just acts like nothing's happening. She's just carrying on the show, right?
Pro.
She keeps interviewing like nothing. Marge could have died on the set. She's out there coughing. Maybe she's dying. I don't know. But she carries on, right? So finally I come back and then it's like, what in the hell are they going to do with that show? Because, I'm ripping off the microphone. The people in the booth are freaking out with this big Daniel. Our post-production editor spent hours. He found a way to pull that piece out. He found a still shot of us sitting there. He puts it in just like you did that one audience shot. It's seamless.
Wow.
No one ever knew watching the show that I had exited and came back.
Wow.
So it's amazing what technology can do. But Anita carried on.
Yes, that was incredible. And the thing is with ADHD, I can really focus, but I hardly knew anything was going on.
See, I was invisible. To you, I was invisible. That's by erasure, Anita. You didn't even know I left.
Oh, man.
And I made this big effing production. I'm ripping off my microphone. I'm flying out. And you don't even know I'm gone.
Sweetheart.
Back in those days, in a studio like that, Marge and Anita were sitting on a little riser, and it was completely dark. It was pitch black. The only thing you guys could see was in the circle of lights that you're sitting in. The camera people are in the dark. The booth is lit in the back in the corner there behind the glass. Anything could be happening in that studio when you're there. And probably did.
Probably did. Nothing profane, but
family time, but still.
As you all are talking about this, in the summer 2023 edition of Women Quarterly, there was an article written by Emerson Rice about BiCities, and it was talking about, you had so much playtime for adults in the booth, and it sounds like you were being really joyous. And as we talk more about guests and flow and the building of a Bi Plus history, we're just going to take a single moment and have a word from our sponsors.
Bisexual Killjoy is growing, friends.
What started as just a podcast has now blossomed into a whole community project.
We're not only dropping episodes, we got culture commentary and hyper-personal essays just for you on our Substack. Get all your burning questions answered through our advice column, Give It To Me Bi Plus, and you can hang out with other Killjoys in our brand new Discord server.
The best part?
It's free to join.
But if you love the work we do and want to make sure we don't burn the fuck out, you can become a paid subscriber and you'll get sweet perks like bonus episodes, bonus posts, and exclusive discussion groups with your favorite Killjoys.
We'd love to have you in the mix.
Come join the community.
See you there.
And we're back. Getting back into it, we're talking about BiCities and how it has hosted hundreds of voices over the decades.
But before we even dive into all of this, we just want to thank you for doing such important work and for all of your dedication carving out this space for us, all Bi Plus folks and community being able to see themselves reflected in your work. We're curious about what it meant to take part in a project with such a large and broad scope. How did you go about choosing guests, and what qualities were you looking for in a good conversation?
Well, we would just look for someone that was either a leader, and it didn't have to be just a bi person, Welcome to BiCities, a program by, for, and about the bi community and our friends and allies. So we would look for people who are allies or whatever, or leaders in the community, politicians, musicians, poets, whatever. If I organize things, then I would say, basically, how come you're here? So it was an event or it was an organization. And Anita did this fabulous job of drawing out their personal story. I'm a psychologist, and she did a better job than me. People would open their hearts and tell their story. And that was so compelling because not only did we want to educate people about bisexuality, bi-visibility, dispel the myths, but also you are a person. Tell us your story. And there were times our crew would cry because people would tell their story, and it was just so touching. It was awesome. What BiCities has meant to me is a place to be. Because first of all, as a therapist, I don't get to talk about what I do, okay, because it's confidential. So I had a place. I had to be careful about where I went in the bi community because my clients were there. And so I needed a place where I could use my skills, and there was bi, all kinds of bis, beautiful bis. And so it became a little family. But it was so validating that all these episodes are now in the Gene Treader collection, making it the largest collection of bi video material in the world because of our over 300 episodes. And bless Lisa Vicoli, who is a curator and the executive director. She contacted us and said, we are going to try to get a grant to digitize BiCities, because we had 5 different people with episodes of BiCities in their closets, in the basement, under the bed. We had to go find all those episodes.
Wow.
Some of them were not in very good shape, but we found them all at that time. We're over 300, and we had to look at them all. We had to name them. We had to tell them what they were about. And now they're on. They're there. They're there for as long as the University of Minnesota has that archive. That's our legacy.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little older. You guys are young. You're the next generation. You're carrying on. But now this is our body of work.
Yeah.
And we didn't set out to do that. It just happened because it was fun. It was meaningful. And when a 12-year-old wants to be on our set, his mother brought him, and some 70-something-year-old, it was a little community, deeply meaningful. I've got national awards as a psychologist because of my work with BiCities, because it's a contribution to we had many psychologists on that was psychologically minded. Anita's psychologically minded. We educated people, and that made a difference. Now, whoever looks at the Gene Treader collection, I don't know, but
It will be linked in our show notes so that our listeners are free to play.
So, Anita.
Yeah, I feel it too. I think that this is a tough time for Marge and I because we both periodically through the years, one or the other of us always said, I want to keep going. If one of us was just so worn out from doing it, we always propped each other up and took the lead for each other when we needed that. We have had to cease filming because we cannot find a post-production editor. I mean, it's so much work, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe we go back, Marge, to shoot it and that's it. but it has been, continues to be, such a point of connection with people, no matter what their orientation or identity, that people see the show. Tom Lisford, the floor manager who often talked to people in the community, he told a story that he was going into a shopping center in Minneapolis and was standing inside the glass outside doors, and there was a person standing there, and they said, to Tom, you're from that TV show. And Tom says, you mean BiCities? And the person said, yeah. Said, you saved my life. I was sitting on the couch trying to decide whether or not I wanted to take my own life or not. And I was channel surfing and I came on BiCities, and there you were talking with somebody who was transgender. I realized that's me. There are other people who are like me. I'm not alone. And as a result of seeing that show, did not take their life. Mm. So it has been and continues to be a powerful opportunity to learn. The people who were on the show, I think everyone is deeply touched by it. And as Marge said, the way the crew reacted to different people that we've had on, the way Marge and I reacted. And Bill, those first 5 years, Bill was in his world. I mean, he got us to that place where other people knew about us and we found people to continue on all these years until last year. We shot some incredible interviews that are still raw video. And having this conversation now, Marge, Bill, it makes me think about, we got to get those shows.
Yeah, that's the next step. We need to get the shows. What are we going to do? Are we going to have a final episode? How are we going to get those shows that haven't been post-edited yet?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, SPNN, the studio, is still running BiCities. They're running old episodes.
Oh, yeah.
We're still on. It's like they're repeat. Well, they're we repeat ourselves. We show up more than once.
I think this is a good opportunity to actually kind of talk about legacy a little bit, to talk about next generations and passing the torch, because so many of us Bi+ folks get into this work because we're passionate, we are dedicated, and we're tired of not seeing ourselves in spaces and knowing, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And part of resisting erasure is legacy, right? It is having a body of work in an archive. It is doing a podcast. It is documentation, which Bi+ people are really good at. There are actually a lot of anthologies out there. There are a lot of physical things like shirts and ephemera. But part of that is about empowering the next generation to take over the work. And something that Jason and I have discussed over this past season is how COVID robbed a torch pass moment. The education and empowerment and mentorship that was supposed to happen from that 2019 to 2022 phase disappeared. And as a result, a lot of Bi orgs are either disappearing, they're folding, they're powering down. As our listeners are listening to this and you have experience in post-production work, reach out to BiCities and volunteer your time and get involved in that way, because you are allowed to be in the space, to take up space and to help. Marge and Anita, since you're both actively in the work and in the project, how would you be happiest seeing the work continue? Is it ending the show? Is it revamping it or changing it? What are your thoughts?
Well, definitely getting the 4 or 5 episodes that are each individually just fantastic interviews, getting those out. And what you have just said, who's out there, who could do this work? Who could help us? But yes, we've already discussed that BiCities is essentially trademarked. This is our show, and no one could continue BiCities, but they could continue their own show and continue doing interviews. And I think Marge and I would still interview people if we had people who could get it ready to be put on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think our part was the easy part, and the fun part. The other heavy lifting was the technical. That took hours and hours and hours to do that. So yeah, I think the next step, we want to get those shows up. We want to get them to the Treader collection, because not all our shows are in the Treader collection. We want to get our website back. But that will happen. But I think, my thoughts, Anita, let's get together with some of the folks. I think if we do one big push, we'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
People have energy and they have personal lives and they need to move on, or they don't have the juice to do it right then. But I think this is inspiring me, thanks to two of you.
Yeah, people have jobs.
What? Jobs?
Job? What's a job?
Exactly, lives. And this is all volunteer. It's all volunteer.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting paid. And so we're dependent on the kindness and the interest. But, people will show up because people have a need. And why did we get involved? Because we had a need and we were willing and we wanted to show off. And so we did. Well, we wanted to show off. Somebody's going to come along, but we can nurture them. You are the next generation right now with the visibility. We'll see what we can do with BiCities, but it's been on hiatus for a year or so.
So Twin City Bi Plus people, here's the call. Answer the call. Get involved in your communities. I know a lot of you are out there. The Twin Cities, when we visited, is a very Bi Plus place.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very queer place. And for historical reasons, obviously, it's very exciting. So I know you're out there and I know you're listening to the show. So get involved, because this is something we hear is like, I don't have any Bi Plus community. There's no Bi Plus communities near you. It's like, you actually just need to look around a little bit. Look for that purple shirt. Look for that collection of 3 or more drinks on a table, and you will find a Bi Plus person. As you reflect, though, we're looking to the future, but also it's good to reflect on the past. What would you say was your moment that you knew that something special was happening with this show? Bill, would you mind starting us off, and then Marge, and then Anita?
That's a really great question. I don't know when, actually. I think we had something really special when we finally had, after about a year of going, when we had a crew that came every single month. We shoot 2 shows a month. And they would come every time, and we'd go to a bar by the name of Procna in Maine, and we'd sit down there after the show, and we had such a great community, and it was such wonderful people, and it just meant so much that we built this intentional community. So it's a very personal answer when we was able to build a community around this work. There's always a larger mission, but then there's always that smaller mission. And that smaller mission is the stuff that helps motivate me to keep doing it. And that's why I did it, was for the people I worked with and all my friends from the show.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bill. What about you, Marge?
Again, it's a good question. And I don't know that there's a moment. Sometimes we don't know the moment until we're looking in the rearview mirror and see what we've done. However, whenever I looked out at our beloved crew, all different kinds of people, all different kinds, who would come and show up. And there was something about BiCities that was bigger than just this show. It was community. It was love. It was connection. It was a place. We needed a place. Every one of us. Didn't matter if we were 12 or 75 or if we had a disability it doesn't matter. We were all really different and we were all the same. And so there's something bigger than just what we did on a day-to-day. Because the day-to-day we just did and we had fun. But now there's something bigger. And so when we can have that connection and know that people had a reason to be there. Because why would all these disparate, interesting people, why would they come? I wouldn't have known them from anybody. But here they came.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Marge. What about you, Anita?
In the moment, sometimes, I can't remember how many times Marge and I have looked at each other and said, wow, we could do a whole nother interview, because it was so powerful. And I think that's the feedback that I would get when people would run into me and some didn't even know me, but then they'd recognize me. And when they realized where they had seen me, they would tell me how much the show meant to them. It brought a woman from India to the Because conference. She had Googled bisexuality. It just happened that BiCities came up, and she happened to see the interview that we did with the leaders of the Because conference, which we always tried to do and run the show, the month before the conference. And she saw it. Nobody knew she was bi except her husband. She flew to the United States. And because of Tom Lisford, who went and said hello to her, we found out that this woman had seen BiCities on the internet and had come to the conference in Minneapolis.
If I might, Anita, what's amazing about that particular thing, our director then, Erica Rogers, had just put BiCities on the internet for that one episode.
Wow.
That was the first time it was ever on the internet.
Oh my gosh.
And this woman in India is looking for bi stuff, and up comes the Because conference. She took 3 days to get here.
Wow.
And she said, I don't know any bi people. People get killed in India for being bi. And here she came across the world to find community. So yes, the Because conference, and Bill's been a part of it. All of us here have been a part of it. You guys were, I guess, keynoters last year, and I'm sorry I missed you. What a loss that was. I hope you come again. But see, the Because conference is still running since 1992. It's still running. And so it draws people from all over the world. And we have filmed. There's many episodes in the Treader collection. And sadly, we weren't there when you were there. But yeah.
One thing I want to say is not quite related, but it's that Minneapolis-St. Paul, Minnesota is not flyover country. This is one of the biggest destinations in the United States for people to feel safe. 2 new neighbors up the block who moved here from the South, they told me there were a bunch of reasons that they moved here. And I said, well, what is one of those reasons? And they said to feel safe. Transgender and gender non-binary people, as well as gay, lesbian, perhaps bisexual too, I don't know. People are moving to Minnesota, to Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I'm so proud of it. We are a destination, a safe place, a loving place.
This has been such an amazing episode and conversation talking about what BiCities has meant to you, how much fun it is to start your own project. I think that that's one of the biggest takeaways for us today, and the importance of bi+ specific spaces and creativity and curiosity and how beautiful the product of that can really truly be. Is there something that we should be on the lookout next from you?
For me, my long-term project is to make videos of myself doing therapy. I'm a speech and language pathologist, also a specialist in the singing voice. I'm a specialist in working with people who are transgender, gender non-binary, and putting videos out there so people who don't have access to therapy, can't afford to see somebody to help them with their speaking voice and singing voice, or who are still in the closet but just want to understand more about it, so that people can access the videos free of charge. And that is the next project, to try to help people heal the world with education and with understanding. The link between the bi people and the transgender people and non-binary people in the Twin Cities has been strong for a long time. I feel like we're the other, we're not gay or lesbian, and we've had a strong affinity. Half of our crew was trans or gender non-binary. So that's what I'm doing next. And Marge and I are now, got a fire lit for both of us.
That's what I would say. Thank you, Anita, because you are a wonderful international presenter on helping transgender find their voice. So my little project, which is a big one, is clean up in aisle 3. Let's get those shows up and running. Let's get them on the internet. Let's get them in the Treader collection. I mean, because sometimes we just get tired.
Yeah.
We take a break and we don't have the juice to do it, and our personal life gets in the way. And so then things fall between the cracks. Nobody's fault. Nobody's a bad person. And now it's like at least part of our legacy. If we put a little bow on it, then we let it go to the next people, but it will always be there. And maybe we'll film another show. I don't know. Maybe something will happen. Somebody might show up.
Who's to say?
Maybe you guys come into town.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll do a little episode.
Me, I don't know. There's a lot's happened in 20 years since we first started that show. 23 years. So lots happened in that time. Lots reported. I'm an author. I'm a writer. I think you're going to put up our URLs. I have a book, a novel that came out a year ago now. So I've been busy with that. But one thing around LGBT, actually around bi issues, to be specific, is I'm working on right now is the Visibility Impact Fund, which is a small granting organization that we've been putting out little grants. And I just got involved in that recently. They put out a call for people to get involved because it's hard. Again, it's all volunteer energy and there's no overhead. Every dollar goes right out into the field to good organizations and good projects. Not a ton of money, but it's a start. So we're real excited about trying to help that fund and continue to grow it and to do some good work because goodness knows we need it.
When we're all volunteers and we're bi, you've had shows on Bisexual Killjoy about the damage that minority stress and bi erasure has done to our mental health and our physical health. And so here we are. We're carrying on anyway, and we get tired sometimes. We all know the bi community, more substance abuse, more mental health stuff, more physical stuff. I mean, it's all out there. And so God bless us. We carry on. And so it's not always easy, but that's our resilience. It's not going to die. Just because you don't think I exist, we are here. And maybe we go under a little bushel for a while, our little light is on, and then we come out. And so we are here and we're here to stay, and we will continue despite the challenges because we are resilient.
Beautifully said.
To all our listeners, check out all of those details of these amazing things that these amazing people are doing in the show notes. Thank you all so much to this team. Thank you for joining us, Anita, Marge, and Bill. It was such an honor to do this deep dive into how a project like BiCities gets started, how it keeps going, the importance of a team, trust, and the importance of people who truly believe in this work and to continue going. Thank you for embodying the bisexual killjoy spirit in all of the work that you have done and continue to do. We are here today as people, as a movement, as a collective, able to look to the future with good energy because of people and projects like yours. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jace. Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Bisexual Killjoy, where we know that bisexuality isn't a phase, it's a phenomenon. To support us, share us with your friends, your family, your frenemies. Subscribe to our Substack and rate our podcast, preferably 5 stars. As always, we want to hear from you. You can share your stories with us on Instagram or via email at bisexualkilljoy@gmail.com. We would also love to answer your questions in our advice column, Give It To Me Bi Plus. So you can check that on Substack for more details. And until next time, keeping a bisexual killjoy.
Stay bisexual and stay strong.